Hello. I know we have to pick up on our video number 3, but we're going to take a break. That's going to be the next video we'll probably do Thursday. But we're going to do video number 7 about why are we talking about history at all? Why did I invite you guys to come and interact with me on this project? History is boring. We all know that. That's why none of you are historians. That's why forever I wasn't. But history is everything. And sometimes we'll miss the forest for the trees. There is nothing you do that's not history. If you are a mathematician or an engineer and you are going to get your degree in that, you're going to start off with what? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, algebra, geometry, calculus. Just goes in an order. You're learning the history of mathematics until you get to the more sophisticated part of it. History is the explanation of society in which we live. Okay? If we don't learn the basics, we won't understand the calculus of society in which we live. We won't understand the sophisticated part because we don't have the basics. We're taught not to question a lot of things in our society, especially as Americans. And I know I'm going to break the law with a lot of Americans and further, especially with a lot of black people. That comes from Christianity. This is not to talk bad about Christianity. Love my Christian brothers and sisters. That's not what I'm talking about. But in truly understanding something, you have to let all preconceived notions go. Nothing is universal. Nothing is beyond question. And you'll find in the study of Christianity that specifically it was either in the Council of Chalcedon or the Council of Constantine, in which the Bible was actually, the stories of the Bible were actually being created and voted on hundreds of years after everybody that had something to do with it was gone. One of the things that they actually voted in the divinity of Jesus. That wasn't always a given. They voted in literally not to question the principles that were written or provided by this particular religion. Anytime you are functioning under something that you don't scrutinize, that's a dangerous thing. Further, that's against what's written in the Bible. It says, study to show thyself approved. And you should not be ashamed in delineating the word of truth. It didn't say the word of God. It said the word of truth. Now, that's against the concept of the Bible, but they said it's supposed to go without question. So, if we don't question the forefathers' intentions, there was a famous historian named Bernard, because before Bernard, this was his last name, Beard, not Bernard, Beard. I'm getting the Bernard is the first name of another historian, but Beard. Look up Beard historian, if that's what you choose to do. So just in case, so you don't see that this is not anything to kind of wreck your thinking. This is to open up your thinking. Beard was the first guy to say, hey, let's look into the investments of the forefathers, because before that, the forefathers of the United States were just, oh my God, these are the greatest guys ever. They just wanted freedom and opportunity and all this good stuff. Beard mayor said, let me look at your portfolios. Why not? And he began to see that a lot of the decisions that were being made was consistent with the personal investments of these people. And he was the first person to say, that freedom and liberty and all of that tomfoolery, that was a smokescreen. They didn't care who was in charge. They didn't care how it was in charge. They cared who was in charge, because they did the same thing England was doing. We have taxation without representation. We don't vote for the president today. Understand that we vote for the person who votes for the president. That's what the Electoral College is. And the Electoral College was made because of slavery. Real talk. Look it up. Read the Constitution. Only 33% of Americans read the Constitution, have read the Constitution. Yet, when somebody kneeled, it was this huge thing about disrespecting the country. Yet, you've never bothered to read the governing documents of the country that you're so passionate about. Strange. Strange. So, black folk. Now, there are levels of consciousness that we're going to talk about. Black and white don't exist. But for this particular case, if we're talking about American society and not the history of philosophy and getting to that level, if we're just going to talk about regular philosophical, not philosophical, just regular social history, black people, going back to our point of, if you don't have the words for something, you don't see it. If you don't have the words Martin Delany, if you don't have the words Booker T. Washington, if you don't have the words W.E.B. Du Bois, if you don't have the words Frederick Douglass, if you don't have the words Marcus Messiah Garvey, and so on. You don't have the words black nationalism. You don't have the Pan-African. You don't have these words in your head. You have an incomplete definition of your society and thought process within your community. You don't have to subscribe to it. You have to understand that it's there. Other than that, you're just a person who came in an empty room and sat down. You're not the painter that noticed the color of the paint. You're not the engineer that saw how the room was structured. You're not the electrician who saw how the wiring was ran. You're not the plumber who knew where the plumbing was and all the possibilities that came from those things. You're just a person sitting in an empty room. And when you're just sitting there, everything is going on around you. You are not a participant at that point. You are a resident. We have a huge history that we know nothing about because it was illegal for us to learn it. We had our history taken away. And I know we've heard this, but we have to put it in context. Our history was taken away and our language was taken away. And we were given a value system, Christianity, to follow. Someone else, we imposed value system and imposed language. And if somebody can control how you think and how you act and how you communicate, they control what you do. Jump off black folks. Let's get to white folks. White people. I only deal with white supremacists. That's who I deal with, okay? And in the real term, white supremacy, because I know when I say white supremacy, everybody jump back. Stay on the video. Stay on the video, okay? We use the word white supremacy wrong. What we relate to supreme means you're functioning at your zenith, okay? At your zenith, supreme. What we have been relating white supremacy to is nothing to do with people functioning at their zenith. I know some white supremacists. I know some people who are supreme people, and they're white. That's who I deal with. Okay? So that's who I'm talking to. If somebody's an idiot, I don't care what color you are, you don't even need to watch this video because you're an idiot. You're not going to do anything good with this video. But my good white people, you have to understand that if you don't have the words, you're not going to see it either. You're not going to see the pain that people are trying to express in Ferguson in the 1960s, at the turn of the century, turn of the 20th century. When people are talking about what happened in 1850, when people are talking about mass incarceration today, a Holocaust going on today, because it doesn't affect your world and you have not been taught how it is affecting your world or why it should affect your world, you're not going to have the words. You're not going to see it. Many white people do not see mass incarceration today. And if they do see it, they don't see it to the severity of black people, because it's black people that are disproportionately being affected by it. I know we're going to have to pick up a part 2 of this because we're over 10 minutes.